How does power work in Russia? This video is not so much about Christianity, but it is essential for making sense of anything I have said so far, for understanding Russian history, culture, domestic and foreign policy, and any power dynamics in contemporary Russia. Historically, Russia has been very centralized. Political power, business, culture, even language, all these things are centered in Moscow and pretty much directed and even sometimes defined by the central power in Kremlin. Although it is true, this is still a very partial understanding of power in Russia. Russia has always been too big in population and in territory to be so simplistically centralized. Although the administrative division of the country is quite complex, essentially there are three levels of political power in Russia: federal, regional, and local. On the federal level, we have the president, the government with a prime minister, two branches of parliament, supreme and constitutional courts, and so on. With the exception of the Constitutional Court, moved to St. Petersburg in 2008, all federal centers of power are in Moscow. The regional level is represented by so-called federal subjects. Those are republics, krais, oblasts, okrugs, and the cities of Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Sevastopol annexed in 2014 with Crimea. Every region has its own head, a Republican president, governor, mayor, or head of administration, its own parliament, court, and various departments. Formally, regional heads and parliaments are elected. On the local level, there are basic territorial units. Depending on the region, these could be city districts, municipalities, urban or rural settlements, and so on. They don't have parliaments, but have the head of administration with the apparatus and the court. Why is it important? Knowing this structure is crucial for understanding the power dynamics in Russia. The thing is, different levels of power can have and oftentimes do have conflicting interests. Let's take the federal elections, for example. Let's say we have a presidential or parliamentary elections with Putin or his party, the United Russia. Everybody knows he's going to win landslide. Whether elections are manipulated or not, the vast majority actually votes for him and his party. The major concern is the voter turnout, because the more people vote, the more legitimacy the power has. In this situation, the federal power actually benefits from the clean election process. Since the majority supports them anyways, the more transparent the elections are, the more legitimacy it gives to the regime. The regional powers, however, have a different interest. They are competing with the neighboring regions. If they do not show good results on votes and turnout, a governor can be easily replaced by the president. Hence, they put much pressure on the local power, which in turn pressures the directors of local factories, departments, and municipal organizations, like schools for instance, to use their administrative pressure for voters to show up. In most cases, this pressure goes beyond what is allowed by law, but since the pressure is put up by the power itself, it is rarely investigated or persecuted. This conflict of interests between three levels of power reveals itself in everything, from economics to the military mobilization of the recent days. The federal center makes a decision to mobilize a certain number of people, the regional power pressures local administrators to recruit people and provide them with gear and equipment, without allocating financial means for that. The mobilized recruits end up without proper clothing, housing, food, and any training at all. And it is not because one particular government official is corrupt, although most of them are, but because the decision makers oftentimes have much disconnect from reality and the local implementers have no way to inform them. By the way, as I have already mentioned in one of my previous videos, the Russian Orthodox Church is structured in exactly the same way as the Russian state, simply because for most of her history she was the state church and she developed along with the state power through the centuries. Please like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. I see you all next time.